Come and listen on
Don't be afraid to catch fish.
Relax Radio.
Welcome back to Relax Radio, Relaks, with me, Nick, keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right, where we're talking about all things going on in the UK right now and the situation in the UK so far. There's been a lot of these talks, and we're talking about the whole NHS right now. We're talking about how staff workers are struggling and how, I think for months now we've been discussing about how NHS workers actually need to get more pay. Well, finally, the good news is here. The NHS staff members are being offered in England right now. They're being offered a 3% pay hike. That's the NHS and other NHS workers, the nurses included in England, have been offered a 3% pay rise by government in recognition of unique impact of the pandemic on staff. And it comes after heavily criticized proposals made by the Department for Health and Social Care in March said only a rise of 1% was affordable. And all of the NHS staff in Wales will also be offered this 3% rise by the Welsh government. So that's something to be looking forward to. I mean, they totally deserve this raise. This pay hike is definitely something that they need, and this is the positive way to move forward. But some health unions oppose the new figure, saying it does not reflect the sacrifices made by the staff. And they point out, that the NHS workforce has been under unprecedented pressure, and the British Medical Association, or the BMA, which represents doctors, said the pay rise was disappointing and that junior doctors and some GPs could miss out on it altogether. And Dr. Chan Nagpal of the BMA said many doctors had not taken annual leave in the past year and now face a grueling year ahead with millions of patients on waiting lists and the country in the midst of another COVID-19 wave. And they're saying, okay, this is something that's definitely going to happen. I mean, look, right now the cases have been on a rise, and yes, they are not totally stoked with the increment right now that they've received. But I feel like they definitely did receive. They definitely needed to receive this 3%. I mean, yes, it's not enough, but at least at the moment the government afforded to give them this. Although it's still unfair, it's still not enough to the par of the sacrifice that they have given. So the Labour Shadows Health Secretary, Ms. Justin Matters, described the new pay rise as a U-turn and called on the government to make our NHS and key workers feel supported and valued after all they've done for us. And they're saying, okay, this is what they've done. They've done a lot. They sacrificed a lot. So how come, we are not giving them even more? So the rise in pay for healthcare workers follows a public sector pay freeze for 2021 to 2022 announced by the government in November, with exceptions made for those on salaries under £24,000 and the NHS staff workers. So yeah, the 3% rise is for most NHS staffs, including nurses, paramedics, consultant dentists, and salary GPs, and is backdated to April 2021. So according to the government's calculation, for the average nurse, this will mean an additional £1,000 a year, while many porters and cleaners will receive around £540 a year with that regard. So extraordinary efforts. The healthcare and the Health and Social Care Secretary Sajid Javid said NHS staff are rightly receiving a pay rise this year, and despite the wider public sector, pay pause in recognition of their extraordinary efforts. And they're saying, okay, with the efforts that they've done so far and what they've done, and how much work they've put in, they've sacrificed not only their holidays, but in my opinion, they've sacrificed even the peace that they have. I mean, they could have just stayed at home, is what a lot of them could have done, like a lot of us have done. But no, they put their lives in jeopardy every single day, and they've taken they're not taking any of their leaves. They work double time. They were understaffed, there was a lot of work, especially when it came overworked as well, and underpaid. So this is generally the term where I feel the government should show their appreciation to these people, to these individuals, especially when you pay them. But you see, when you give them just £1,000 increment for a whole year, that's still not going to be enough to show, how much that they have done for the country. They were literally the backbone. So the NHS pay rises are negotiated by independent pay review bodies that look at evidence from a range of groups before making recommendations to the government. So the pay rise does not include doctors and dentists in training who have their own separate multi-year contracts. And they're saying, okay, these are just for the several paid GPs, salaried GPs, dentists, consultants, paramedics, and nurses as well. So the pay, like I said, the pay rise will not include doctors nor dentists in training who have their own separate contracts. And it was a day of frustration for a lot of health unions and their members. There was a widespread expectation. They were expecting a lot. They were expecting more, rather, from the government. More action from the government, and expectation that the details would be revealed in a health ministry statement to the comments at lunchtime. But MPs were told the government was still considering pay review body recommendations. Then the announcement came at around 6 p.m., suggesting a frantic afternoon finalizing the deal with the Prime Minister, Chancellor, and Health Secretary, all self-isolating. So the union's reaction has been varied so far. It's not been 100%, they've not been 100% on board with it. They've not been 100% happy or 100%, anything about it. So right now it looks like, they've been receiving a mixed reactions, with one group acknowledging ministers have made a significant step up from the 1% original offer. Although others have said that the 3% on the table was insufficient recognition of the huge effort of the NHS staff during the pandemic. And the details will be put to union members in the next few weeks, and it will be hard to predict the response at a time when pressure on the health service is intensifying because of another COVID surge. And they're saying, okay, because of this COVID surge right now, this is just something that we are expecting. I mean, look, I feel like, yes, they definitely need this. They definitely need more of this with this regards. So right now, the way the situation is going, it doesn't look like it's a clear-cut situation. It doesn't look like, a lot of, like I said, it's been receiving a lot of mixed reactions. On the one side, they're saying, okay, this is an improvement from that 1% that they were originally offered. But then the other, they say 3% is still not enough. I feel like, okay, you've gotten to 3%. You've done what you did. You did your hard work. And yes, maybe a little bit more could be better, but right now the government has decided that this is 3% is what they can afford. And again, like I said, the situation, if it was a different situation, if we could afford it, yes, definitely we can do it. I feel like the government should look into this as much as they can, though. And members of the Royal College of Nursing, the RCN, have gathered in Westminster ahead of the announcement with placards and banners saying and demanding a 12% pay raise increase. So they're saying, okay, we deserve a 12.5% pay increase, is what they're saying. So one of those demonstrating, Kafilat Andukuli, a 55-year-old, a community matron from Guy's and St. Thomas's NHS Foundation Trust in London, described the pay rise as mad right now. And they're saying, okay, this is just madness. And this is, they say that this is mad and they're not happy. And this is what she actually said. She said they're not listening, that's the whole problem, that this is just to try and stop us from doing industrial action, just to keep us quiet, keep us shushed, is what they're saying. And they're saying the morale is extremely low. One nurse from the A&E nurse and RCM member has said, Amy Fancourt, she went on to say that there's a lot of people leaving the NHS and there are a lot of people leaving the health sector more widely. And they say, I think that is a direct consequence of years of being undervalued on top of the extra pressure we faced during this pandemic. So right now they say, okay, this is, in addition to that as well, with the pandemic, we have gone through a lot and it's been very difficult year so far. So the Unison's General Secretary Christina McEnany said the increase, though an improvement on the initial offer, fell short of what NHS staff members deserved. So the government has failed to show staff just how valued they are to us all. And she said, warning, some staff may leave the health service. And they're saying, okay, look, just because if they lose this, look, you could just give them a little bit more of what they're asking, because they have been undervalued for years. And right now they've been given this extra pressure as well with the pandemic. And they're asking, I feel like they're not asking for a lot, but at the same time, the government not doing this, you're going to be facing, issues with people leaving the job, quitting their jobs. And that's unfortunate, because these are the very same people who have sacrificed a lot, especially during this pandemic. They've done a lot. They've broken their backs and they've sweat, and they've done all these things, to help sort this issue out. So how come they're not really looking into this is my question. Why is the government not taking enough action with regards to this? And how are they going to do, what are the actions that they're going to do? Because look, a lot of them are saying that this 3% offer is just a small step forward on the insulting 1% the government offered in March. And you see, like I said, it's a mixed reaction. Half of them, a lot of them rather, are not quite happy with it. Not, totally up to what they've expected. They've expected a little bit more more, definitely more than 3%, definitely more than 1%, either way. So a 3% rise is still not enough. I feel like the government should step up their game with when it comes to this. At least, in my opinion, it could even go up to 7% at least. At least is what they could have offered them. But then, the government really didn't do that, and they've given them just a 3% offer. And like I said, in one hand, it is a good thing. In one hand, they did give them this sort of increment, but at the same time, in the other hand, when you look at it, it's not really going to be enough for a lot of them. So, however, these recommendations, they say, is in no way recognizing the 19% drop in real earnings that many NHS workers have endured in the last decade, nor the immense sacrifices the NHS health staff have and are continuing to make as COVID infections rates rapidly rise again. And I mean, you can see a lot of these posts, when you look into social media, you can see there's these pictures and they show, these the Royal College of Nursing, all of these nurses coming out and, holding these placards and their boards and their signs telling it's time to pay nursing staff fairly. It's time to pay. Definitely it should be. I mean, look, it's one thing you are not paying maybe your employees or whatever. These are people who sacrifice a lot. I mean, these are healthcare workers, people who are in the health sector. They are the backbone, especially during this pandemic. They are one of the backbones of this country. So how come they're not paying enough is the real question. So the RCN Chief Executive Pat Cullen said the announcement was a light on detail and that nursing staff would remain dignified in responding to what will be a bitter blow to many. But the profession will not take this lying down, is what they're saying, and they are looking into this. So in making the final decisions on pay, the government will have factored in the impact of the pandemic on both the economy and the NHS. So currently almost half the NHS budget goes on staffing costs. So that is a total of 56.1 billion pounds. So that's 56.1 billion pounds is what they're doing for the budget staff. So these are the budgets that go into the staffing costs as well, when it comes to paying doctors, when it comes to paying, nurses and all of these, workers who work for the NHS. So in theory, the pay review bodies make recommendations for the NHS staff across the UK, but it is up to the individual UK nations to decide whether to accept them. And okay, maybe right now these independent bodies, they've come forward and they said, okay, this is how much we should increase. We should increase the pay of these healthcare workers, but then it's up to the government to decide. So this is in essence, it is the government's choice and decision to decide whether they're going to give them what a 1% one or 3%, 5%. It doesn't matter. They get the right. In the end of the day, it's these individual nations in the UK. So England can decide how much it wants to give for the staff members in England. Then in Scotland, they can decide how much they want to give for their staff. And in Wales, they can do the same thing. So right now in Wales, Health Minister Ewan Morgan said the 3% rise recognizes the dedication and commitment of hardworking NHS staff. So looking at that, like I said, a lot of these staff have been going on with this. And in Scotland, most of the NHS staff have already been offered a 4% pay rise, which is backdated to December 2020. This follows a one-off COVID payment for health and social care staff of £500. They're saying, okay, this is what's gonna, what you're gonna be receiving, the benefits that you'll be receiving because because of the struggles that we had in this pandemic. So yeah, they'll definitely be looking into this, and they will be addressing these issues as we go along. And like I said, the government, although the government talked about all these things, they have to understand the feeling of a lot of these staff workers. They must be definitely frustrated. I can imagine how frustrated they might be feeling because you're stuck at work. Sometimes you don't go to work, you don't go to home rather. You don't go home for 2-3 days, and it does get tiring because look, they work hours and hours and hours, and they're already tight on schedule as it is. Some of them who work on call, that should be very terrible for the ones who work on call as well, because you will have to go to the hospital, you will have to be there. And if the government is not taking notice of these people, well, what is going to happen is these people will leave the workforce, and that's going to be problematic. Then the government will be set back because of this if we do lose a lot of our nurses as well. I mean, you guys tell me what you think. Hit me up on our numbers 07852473473. That's right, you can always call us up. And also don't forget, you can download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store to carry us all day, every day. But with that being said, we're going to be taking a real quick break and taking a look at your time right now. It is 4:27. Good evening.
Again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. Me, why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, has how much it's changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
In comparison to now.
Not at all. Not now. The way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no. If that makes sense. They can't
accept rejection, essentially, is all you're trying to say.
Yeah, they can't accept the word no. So if you, how did I do? Well, you didn't do very well. And they get upset, and when I was a youngster, my father used to say to me, because I used to be sport mad when I was very young, well, I still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports. And if I had a bad game, for example, I'd say to me, you had one to forget. That's it.
Your dad sounds like a smart guy. I mean, yeah, that's the real fact of the matter, yeah.
He'd say to me, you had one to forget. Get over it. And that was it. So I'd dust myself down and do it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. An inquest. For me, why did you reject my son? Oh, I haven't rejected your son. Or daughter. I've just told them that they need to buck their ideas up.
That's the truth right there. I mean, if you think about it, if you check the generations, like right now in the US as well, I've seen a lot of these things as well. In the UK, you get medals for participation. But what's the point? What are you trying to? Yeah, what's the point? Either you win or you lose. People are so afraid to put that whole notion of losing. When it comes to right now, the generation gap is just crazy. How much. A lot has changed. Social media has taken control of our lives, and we don't even realize it anymore. We're crippled because of it.
That's absolutely right, Nick. Because, as you said, nowadays it seems that you get rewarded for failure. For the life of me, Nick, I can't get my head around that. Perhaps I'm just getting old and morbid. I don't know. I just can't get my head around how you could be rewarded for failure.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday. And what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at your net worth, you got to start with saying, well, what do I want my net worth to be, so that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 a week, if I save that every week, and you can go online and use calculators online. I don't have to teach you the maths behind it, but you can say, okay, and if I get a 3% return and I put this away for how long will it take to reach my goal? And that's called just this basic cash flow projection calculations. And it's what we use in financial planning all the time. What we say to clients is we say, okay, what is your goal? What is your objective? Where do you want to go to? And we discuss that in a lot of detail and over most of the meeting. And then the rest of it is saying, okay, in your exact circumstances, with your risk profile, with how you feel about investments and pensions and taxes and where you are and who you work with, and your education level or your lack of education or how involved you want to be. There's a lot of variables that we take into account, and then we say, okay, here's a plan. You start like this, that's great. And then we review it all the time. And we say, okay, we need to increase it, we're on track, we're not, this is what is happening. Because remember, when you're dealing with assets, the valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always evaluating what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. So that's a struggle. Yeah. So there are strategies everywhere from £50 a week up to £100 million, and they're different. Right? They range differently from everyone, but and from country to country. To be fair, different countries have different tax laws, so different vehicles. But from your point of view, at the sort of normal end, I'm not going to call it the low end because I'm in that boat as well. It's as tax efficient as you can get it. That's where you start. You use all the tax efficiencies, and then you step up into different things.
Relax.
There's more where that came from, that's all I'm saying.
Broadcasting worldwide. Relax Radio.
Welcome back to Relaks Radio, Relaks. That's right, with me, Nick, giving you company all the way until 6 p.m. And yeah, we were talking about, how right now the situation in the UK is going, and how, a lot of people have been receiving, their pay rises and all this, the way the quarantine is working right now, and how they're asking a lot of these, the government right now is asking a lot of its citizens, to stay at home as much. I mean, at least avoid, because look, right now, the way it is going, there has been a lot of these pings as well. There has been a lot of pings with regards to, people to self-isolate, are being advised to self-isolate. But then it's not really something that a lot of people can do, because look, like I said, if it is 1 or 2 people, maybe 10, 100, okay, let's say a couple of 100 people, it's not good, but it's still not as bad as 600,000. I'm telling you, 600,000. That's just, short. We're just shy of a million people right there. So that's, I mean, when 600,000 of your workforce doesn't come to work and they have to self-isolate, and at the most randomest of times, well, that's just something that, a lot of it will definitely be affecting a lot of businesses. So the UK has unveiled right now, we're talking about all these things, but then looking at the situation in Northern Ireland right now, the whole Brexit situation, how it's affecting, how it's been going on, the situation, and giving you a quick update on that, with how it's going. Well, the UK has unveiled a new set of demands to redraw the post-Brexit trading arrangement it agreed with the EU for Northern Ireland. So right now they're saying, okay, these are the new plans that we are setting into motion. We're setting into place. And this is what we are expecting right now. So the government said border checks on goods from Great Britain it signed up to in the 2019 Brexit divorce deal had proved unsustainable. And this is what they're saying. So Brexit Minister Lord Frost said they risk harming businesses and were damaging the fabric of the UK. And I like how these fancy words they use, fabric of, how it's affecting our whole fabric of our very being. And yes, not making fun of it, but then at the same time, this is also very important right now with the UK, handling the Brexit situation. We will need to look for different avenues, but and if at the same time, we can't really look for other places or other support from other countries if the country that you are making the most dealings with is going to be, very hard about this particular thing. They're going to be really, very difficult to be with, very difficult to negotiate. And if you can't make negotiations with them, well, there's going to be a struggle. So the EU said it would not agree to renegotiate the terms of the 2019 deal. And the checks are included in the Northern Ireland Protocol, a section of the Brexit deal designed to avoid border checks on the island of Ireland. So Lord Frost called on the EU to look onto the UK's proposal with fresh eyes, adding, "We cannot go on as we are." This is what I quote. This is what they're saying right now. Lord Frost has talked about this. However, he announced the UK would not be triggering Article 16 of the protocol, which would allow it to suspend parts of the Brexit deal. He added that the government believed using it was justifiable, but said, nevertheless, we have concluded that it is not the right moment to do so. So Lord Frost told the House of Lords right now that there was a growing sense in Northern Ireland that we've not found the right balance, seen in an ongoing febrile political climate protests and regrettable instances of the occasional disorder. And in case you guys are wondering what this whole disorder is, it's between other countries as well and the Northern Ireland Protocol. And Lord Frost also said all these things, and he called on the EU to agree on a standstill period to prevent a ban on sending chilled meat products such as sausages from Great Britain into force in September, when the full terms of the deal kick in. And he later told that reporters that it was perfectly normal to change treaties in the light of experience, and it happens all the time. So in a 28-page document, the UK government suggested changes to remove custom checks on goods where the Great Britain registered businesses sending them have been declared their final destination is Northern Ireland. So they're saying, okay, we want to remove the custom checks on these particular goods that where they're registered in the GB registered businesses, sending them, and they've declared that the final destination of this package or this particular parcel or whatever this thing, these products and these goods will be Northern Ireland. And to get rid of certificates and checks for foods only ever intended to be consumed in Northern Ireland. So if the foods are going to be it's going to be consumed over in Northern Ireland, why are we even having these certificates and checks as well? And remove medicines entirely from the scope of the protocol and allowing labeled goods conforming to the UK rules to circulate freely in Northern Ireland alongside EU registered products. So there's going to be that issue as well. And that's some of the things that they want to renegotiate with the EU. But the protocol, in case you guys are wondering what this whole protocol is about, is the Good Friday Protocol, which was agreed to prevent the return of a hard border between Irish Republic and the Northern Ireland. So this is the whole reason they had this protocol, why they went on to this. And this was agreed that they don't want to build a physical border between Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland as well. So as both the UK and the EU want to prevent any return to troubles which lasted 30 years and could cost more than 3,500 lives. So these are just, the number of lives that will be affected with regards to this. And they're saying they want to avoid that at all costs. So under its terms, Northern Ireland effectively remains part of the EU single market for goods, meaning it complies with standards set by Brussels. So the biggest practical difficulty in trade terms concerns the movement of food from Britain to Northern Ireland, which could then be transported into the EU via the Irish land border. And the Prime Minister's former chief advisor, Dominic Cummings, has said that, right now that the protocol had been, just a smudge right now. And he said both sides wanted to sign up something that was not, what either side really wanted, and which punted difficult questions into the future to figure out later, because they're saying, okay, right now the EU is dealing with this and the UK is dealing with that. So how are they even coming to a compromise with this regards? Are they even coming to a compromise is what they're saying. And European Commission Vice President Marcos Sefcovic said that the EU is willing to seek creative solutions within the framework of the protocol to ease border issues. And they're saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. And but he added, though, that the 27-member union would not agree to a renegotiation of the Brexit deal, and he said, he went on to say that respecting international legal obligation is of paramount importance. So the DUP leader, Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, said that we welcome the acceptance from the government that the protocol is not working and that it is simply causing real harm to our economy in Northern Ireland, and it is simply not sustainable. And he called that the UK's government statement and its publication, rather, of a command paper describing its demands an important first step. However, the Sinn Féin's Brexit spokesperson, Declan Kearney, went on to say that the UK government, they had to actually stop this evasion and get on with implementing the deal it agreed. And it's not acceptable for the Tories to adopt a la carte approach towards the protocol to rewrite history and now attempt a renegotiation. So they're saying this is just adding to the problem, and how the UK is right now handling this is very, very, very disappointing. And how checks, between the Northern Ireland and Britain even work, when you're looking into it. First of all, these things are just, it is crazy. So they're saying, okay, look, industry group manufacturings of NI said the UK's proposals would create confusion and uncertainty for business and were likely to create conflict with the EU. And it called on the EU to go further to ensure the UK's markets for goods and business consumers in Northern Ireland as well. So they're saying, okay, both parties owe it to the people in Northern Ireland to skip the drama and get on with dialogue and decision making is what the body added. And all of these things, like I said, it's very conflicting. When you are put in a situation like this where there's going to be a border check, because look, we are trying to prevent any sort of physical border. This is what they're trying to do for the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland as well. They want to avoid this at all costs. But then, of course, the way the situation is rising, the way there has been, a lot of back and forth, there has been growing tension between the UK and the EU. Well, this is something, that is going to be inevitable if the UK doesn't back down. And if the EU doesn't back down, well, this could cause into bigger rows, and that one of the rows, it could even eventually lead to tariffs being imposed, and that's going to be very problematic. So let's see how it goes. Hopefully the government will find a way to sort of handle this particular situation. I really don't know what they have in store, but let's see how it goes. And with that being said, we're going to be taking a real quick break and taking a look at your time right now. It is 4:43. Good evening.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday. And what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at your net worth, you got to start with saying, well, what do I want my net worth to be, so that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 a week, if I save that every week, and you can go online and use calculators online. I don't have to teach you the maths behind it, but you can say, okay, and if I get a 3% return and I put this away for how long will it take to reach my goal? And that's called just this basic cash flow projection calculations. And it's what we use in financial planning all the time. What we say to clients is we say, okay, what is your goal? What is your objective? Where do you want to go to? And we discuss that in a lot of detail and over most of the meeting. And then the rest of it is saying, okay, in your exact circumstances, with your risk profile, with how you feel about investments and pensions and taxes and where you are and who you work with, and your education level or your lack of education or how involved you want to be. There's a lot of variables that we take into account, and then we say, okay, here's a plan. You start like this, that's great. And then we review it all the time. And we say, okay, we need to increase it, we're on track, we're not, this is what is happening. Because remember, when you're dealing with assets, the valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. So that's a struggle. Yeah. So there are strategies everywhere from £50 a week up to £100 million, and they're different. Right? They range differently from everyone, but and from country to country, to be fair. Different countries have different tax laws, so different vehicles. But from your point of view, at the sort of normal end, I'm not going to call it the low end because I'm in that boat as well. It's as tax efficient as you can get it. That's where you start. You use all the tax efficiencies, and then you step up into different things.
Relax.
There's more where that came from, that's all I'm saying.
Broadcasting worldwide. Relax Radio.
Welcome back to Relaks Radio, Relaks. That's right, where we're trying to relax, but at the same time, where we're trying to keep it positive. And, we're trying to talk also about all the things that is really happening right now in the UK. And there's a lot of things, that we were discussing about. And right now, there has been a lot of, with the situation in the UK, we're speaking especially about the UK, because this is what we do. We definitely talk about things that is going on. The pressing matter is what is happening home. And if you want to be part of the show, well, it is pretty simple. All you got to do is hit us up on the numbers. You know what it is? It's 07852 473 473. That's right. Those are the magical numbers. You can always feel free to call us up, though. You can hit us up on our hotline and let us know what your thoughts are. And also, don't forget, you can download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day. And looking at the fishing situation, UK has no idea of EU fishing catches in its waters, is what Labour is saying. So Labour has been accused, they've been accusing the government of having no idea how many fishes are being caught in UK waters by EU boats. And they're saying, okay, this is a problem right now. Look, we were just talking about it. We were just talking about the Northern Ireland issue, how this thing is, escalating, and how they're not making sure that it stops, because look, the way it is going, there's going to be a lot of pushback with regards to this. So Labour has accused the government of this, and they say, right now the government doesn't even realize how much of fish we are missing out because of these EU boats. So the party has accused ministers of losing control of the UK waters and letting down fishing fleets. So data on certain species such as the scallops and crabs is not yet being regularly shared by the two sides since the Brexit transition ended in January. And the government said it expected information sharing for these stocks to take place shortly. And they say, okay, this is what we are expecting, with these stocks when it comes to these particular matter. And under the Brexit trade deal, well, 100 species, including cod and herring, have catch quotas applied to them for the UK and EU waters. Data on these species is being shared to prevent stocks becoming depleted. So what they're doing is they're sharing information with regards to this when it comes to the fishing between these waters. They're saying, okay, this is what we're trying to do to prevent any sort of loss on both sides. So we don't want the stock to reduce. But the UK and EU have also agreed to allow each other's boats to catch species not covered by quotas in quantities based on historic averages until June 2026. So statistics on these non-quota fish, which used to be collected and shared by the EU under the Common Fisheries Policy, are not being shared in full, despite an agreement to do so. So the two sides are hoping to hammer out an agreement to resume full data sharing at the new committee. So they're saying, okay, look, we're having problems with this regards how when it comes to sharing of data and information, how come we're not doing this, the proper right way? So I really don't understand either. And I also don't looking at all this, I understand where they're coming from, but then there's not enough sharing. So when it comes to the information, and if they're not being shared, well, we don't even know how much of these fisheries are going to be affected. So statistics on these non-quota fish, which used to be collected and shared by the EU under the Common Fisheries Policies, are not being shared in full, despite an agreement to do so. So what is up is what they're saying, and they're like asking, what is going on? Why is the EU rather not sharing this information? This information is supposed to be, publicized, and it should be this data should be shared with the UK, because we've had this, these policies. This is under the Common Fisheries Policies. So the two sides are hoping to hammer out an agreement to resume this whole sharing of data. But this is what the Labour is saying. Labour is saying that the government was having to start from scratch in gathering the data, while the fishing industry has concerned, and they've expressed their concerns, that the EU boats were catching a large amount of these non-quota species, particularly in the English Channel. So the Labour Shadow Environment Secretary Luke Pollard said a UK-EU data sharing arrangement should be put in place where the post-Brexit trade agreement came into force in January. And he said, the MPs, that the fishing industry knows that the government has failed to negotiate real terms quota with the data with the European Union. And Mr. Pollard added that the government had lost control of our waters and was badly letting down the British fishing industries. Look, when it comes to these fisheries and farming and all of that, I feel like the government is not really playing it really well. And because look, fisheries is also one of the main sources of when it comes to a lot of these families and businesses that, are affected by this. They small businesses or big businesses, it doesn't really matter, because they are definitely going to be affected by this by a whole. And looking at all these things, stocks are not covered by quotas, including red mullet, fish, squid rather, and commercial shellfish are particularly important to these smaller UK vessels fishing close to the shoreline. So a lot of these boats don't really go far and wide. They go closer to the shoreline because, this is what they fish for. So the Environment Secretary, George Eustace, said, and he went on to say to the MPs that the government has required all foreign vessels, including EU vessels, to have a license to fish in our waters. So that sets aside certain conditions. So we have access to vessel monitoring data so that we can track the precise location of all of those vessels. And he added that we are working on methodologies now so that we have to declare their catch when they leave our waters and enter our waters, and that will give us the data that Mr. Pollard suggests that we need. And they say, okay, this is the data that we require. And Mr. Eustace said that the government has also secured total fishing opportunities for UK fleets of 628,000 tons for 2021, up around 55,000 tons on last year. So this is just, what they are getting, and they're getting from this regard. So looking at all these things, like I said, the fisheries have definitely been affected with, regards to all these things. So let's see how it goes. Hopefully they will find a way to sort this out the way the government is looking. And looking at all these things, we were discussing a lot of this news, what is going on in the UK and the businesses. Well, taking right now, all a look at the issue in the world right now, the world's issues. Well, the Olympics opening ceremony director sacked, and because he made a Holocaust joke. So that's really not funny, is what, it's very insensitive to be doing this at a time like this. So the show director of the Olympics opening ceremony had been dismissed one day before the event is due to be held. So footage of Kentaro Kobayashi from the 1990s recently emerged, in which he appears to be making jokes about the Holocaust. So Japan's Olympic chief Saiko Hashimoto said the video ridiculed the painful facts of history, and the dismissal is the latest in a string of scandals to hit the games. So recently the games they were talking about, or other things they were making fun about. And when it comes to feminism and all of that as well. So the Tokyo 2020 postponed last year because of the COVID-19 pandemic that has constantly, been threatening the games and been derailing this whole event, and has been seen, 3 men forced to step down since the start of 2021. So earlier this week, a composer quit the team creating the ceremony after it emerged that he had bullied classmates with disabilities at school. And in March, Olympics chief creative Hiroshi Sasaki quit after suggesting that plus-size comedian Naomi Watanabe could appear as an Olympic. He later apologized for this, which he did. I mean, at the time, it did sound. I really want to know at that time, was it funny? Was it really worth saying something like that? And in February, Yoshiro Mori was forced to step down as the head of the organizing committee after he made remarks about women that were criticized as inappropriate. And Mr. Mori was quoted as saying women talk too much, and that meetings with many female board directors would take a lot of time. So this latest scandal has seen former comedian Mr. Kobayashi strongly criticized for a sketch he performed 23 years ago. I mean, is it a lot? I mean, I feel like it should be. You shouldn't hold someone accountable for their past every single day. I mean, 23 years ago is a long time. The person could be a different person right now. And, they're saying in which he and another comedian pretended to be children's entertainers. And in the sketch, Mr. Kobayashi actually turns to his colleague referring to some paper doll saying that they are the ones from that time you said, let's play the Holocaust. And this is what a lot of these sources, when it comes to the media sources, this is what they have revealed. So Japanese Prime Minister Yoshide Suga described the comments as outrageous and unacceptable, while Rabbi Abraham Cooper of the U.S.-based Holocaust research body Simon Wissen Center said any person, no matter how creative, does not have the right to mock the victims of the Nazi genocide. So, I mean, like I said, was it really worth it? End of the day, was it really worth you saying something like that? And I mean, this is something to be expected. You will definitely be sacked. I'm surprised if if it's just that only. But this is also going to leave a black mark on these people and their careers moving forward. And Mr. Kobayashi also issued a statement responding to his dismissal. He said, entertainers should not make people feel uncomfortable. And I understand that my choice of words were stupid. And at that time it was wrong. And I regret it. And look, it's too late. I mean, yes, 23 years ago, you're being, it's how they say the demon catches up to you even after 23 years. And that is, just how it goes to show 23 years later, your karma just comes back to you because look, at that time, maybe you might have made a lot of money, had a good laugh. But now looking into it, it's not the greatest of things because these things catch up. So this scandals have done little to stop a lot of these mass unease about the games. So the head of the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Committee admitted this week he had not ruled out cancellation even at this late of a stage. And there's been a lot of concerns as well. So looking at all these things, let's see how it goes. I definitely feel like the way the Olympics are going right now. Look, first of all, a lot of people are not happy about it, especially when it comes to the public in Japan. They are not on board with having the Olympics. Many of them actually, even news outlets, media outlets, and a lot of celebrities as well condemn this whole Olympics happening even right now in Tokyo. They're saying, okay, look, we need it pushed. We don't want it right now because look, right now is, like I said, not the greatest time. We have a pandemic going, something that is of more vital urgency than a sporting event is what they're trying to say. And looking at all this thing, a recent poll found out that some 55% of people in Japan were opposed to holding the game. So there was a poll that was made and 55% of the Japanese population were opposed to holding this game. And they had a lot of fear. It could become a coronavirus super spreader event. This is what they're afraid of. So already organizers are dealing with rising COVID case numbers, and dozens of people involved in the games, including officials and athletes, have tested positive. So that is also problematic. And, I can understand the drama of how this is escalating. But then again, let's see how it goes. I mean, the way it is going, I don't really feel like they will be pushing this back anytime soon. If for good or for better, well, the Olympics will have to happen. It's still going to happen. But hey, with that being said, we are going to be taking a real quick break, taking a look at your time right now. It is 5 p.m. on the dot. Good evening.
But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. Me, why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, how much it's changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
In comparison to now.
Not at all. Not now. The way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no, if that makes sense.
They can't accept rejection. Essentially, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, they can't accept the word no. So if you, how did I do? Or you didn't do very well, and they get upset, you know. And when I was a youngster, my father used to say to me, because I used to be sport mad when I was very young. Well, I still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports. And if I had a bad game, for example, I'd say to me, "You had one to forget." That's it.
Your dad sounds like a smart guy. I mean, yeah, that's the real fact of the matter. Yeah.
You know, he'd say to me, "You had one to forget. Get over it," and that was it. So I'd dust myself down and do it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, "You've had one to forget," God, there'd be an inquest. An inquest. For me, why did you reject my son? Oh, I haven't rejected your son. Or daughter. I've just told them that they need to buck their ideas up.
That's the truth right there. I mean, if you think about it, if you check the generations, like right now in the US as well, I've seen a lot of these things as well in the UK. You know, you get medals for participation. But what's the point? What are you trying to? Yeah, what's the point? Either you win or you lose. People are so afraid to put that whole notion of losing. You know, when it comes to right now, the generation gap is just crazy. You know how much. A lot has changed. Social media has taken control of our lives, and we don't even realize it anymore. We're crippled because of it.
That's absolutely right, Nick. Because, as you said, you know, nowadays it seems that you get rewarded for failure. You know, for the life of me, Nick, I can't get my head around that. Perhaps I'm just getting old and morbid. I don't know. I just can't get my head around how you could be rewarded for failure. And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, got me thinking. You know, you want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out though so much, especially with these kind of shirts when you're riding? There must be a purpose behind it, right?
Well, when you say a purpose, Nick, what I do, I wear the shirts. Mainly, one, because they're nice and bright, so they make me visible, especially if I'm riding on the road.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's very important, right? Because you want cars, yeah.
Very important. And also, like, people see me in, like, calves, and perhaps I shouldn't be saying this on here, I suppose, but in the bar afterwards.
All right.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh, so that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, you look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Nick.
If you wanna go and take a ride with me, baby, one more time.
More variety than you can imagine. Relax Radio.
Relax Radio, that's right, you know, where we have a lot of variety rather, and we're talking about all things that is happening right now. There's a lot of talks and there's a lot of conversation going on, and yeah, you know, we'll be talking about all these things as we move along in the show, and yeah, we'll definitely be looking into this, and we'll definitely be talking on about this. But before we do that, though, and yeah, you know, I mean, if you want to be part of the show, well, it is pretty simple. You can kindly hit me up and let me know on our numbers 07852 473 473. That's right, those are the magical numbers. And with that being said, though, before we get on the show, we're going to be taking a real quick break, and yeah, taking a look at your time right now, though. It is 5:04. Good evening.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh, so that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Girls, ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, got me thinking. You want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out though so much, especially with these kind of shirts when you're riding? There must be a purpose behind it, right?
Well, when you say a purpose, Nick, what I do, I wear the shirts, and mainly one because they're nice and bright, so they make me visible, especially if I'm riding on the road.
Okay.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's very important, right? Because you want
important,
cars. Yeah.
Very important. And also, like, people see me in like calves, and perhaps I shouldn't be saying this on air, I suppose, but in the bar afterwards.
All right.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Girls, ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, you look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Nick.